Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Mitch Beinhaker of Beinhaker Law. Mitch, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks, Gresham. I appreciate you bringing me on today.
Definitely super excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Mitch so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Mitch is a business lawyer and a state's attorney who runs a solo legal and consulting practice representing business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, and professionals. Through his 29 years of experience, Mitch has handled business development, marketing, firm management, along with business transactional work for clients of the firm. He has extensive experience with corporate governance, commercial transactions, real estate, and risk analysis. Using his years of practical experience, he drafts contracts, negotiates purchases, and can manage outside counsel for any corporate situation. And for business owners and executive, he creates and implements estate plans along with succession plans to help companies continue for future generations. And he's also a podcaster as well, too. Mitch, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's do it then. So to kind of kick everything off, I want to rewind the clock a little bit here, a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through your CEO story? We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I was always a business major in college, economics, finance, things like that. And I was always an entrepreneur, growing up, even in high school and middle school. I would run little businesses all the time. And I had in high school, I had a detailing business. It was the days when detailing was just like a new thing. And I think I had an uncle or cousin or somebody said, hey, I can't get my car washed. Can you come to my office and wash the car? So we went there. I brought a buddy of mine. We detailed the car. Next thing you know, I got all these people in the parking lot, like lining up to get their cars detailed.
Nice.
Because I discovered that all these executives, they don't have time to like go to the car wash. The car should be closed when they were done with work and things like that. So we started this business. We got a distributor of the products that we needed. We started learning about how to do this thing, and we built the business. I sold it at the end of college, and then at the end of high school. Then in college, I was always doing something. I had a DJ company for the fraternity house I was in. I had a bunch of other businesses going on. I actually had a business. So Lyft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Lyft was I went to Cornell University in 85 to 89. The guys who started Lyft are Cornell grads. This is after
really?
I was there, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah. So when I was there, we realized that, nobody has a way to get home. Like they're always posting things on the bulletin board. Bulletin boards in those days had like push pins, and they were,
Yes.
with cork. Like I have one on my wall here. So we had this great idea. We created this thing. It was called CRIS, the Computerized Ride Information Service, right?
Nice.
But there wasn't any internet. The internet was going to come around a couple of years from that. So we had the phone number set up. People would call, and they would, or say, I need a ride, and they would it was like electronic board because we didn't have any of that stuff. So we were up and running. About 6 months later, university, here's what we're doing. They come, they say, you can't run a business out of the dorm room, and they shut us down.
Oh, no.
And then 10 years later, whatever, this guy invents Lyft. And see, I thought of the idea. I just wanted credit for that. So
there you go.
Since
you have the credit here. You have the credit here.
Yeah. So I've always been an entrepreneur. And then I was graduating, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go the MBA route, really. Yeah, I should have. I don't know. But I decided, I wasn't analytical enough. I thought I wasn't the best reader. Maybe I'm even a little dyslexic, never been diagnosed, but I have a feeling I am. And I decided to go to law school. So I applied to a bunch of law schools. I took one that was basically offering me the most money because my dad was like, basically, look, I got to take care of your sister. So good luck, kind of, just joking around. But so that's what I did. So I went to school in the city and, took all the business and tax courses I could as a lawyer. And then and estate planning too. So I did a lot of estate planning coming out of law school. My father was in the life insurance business for a very long time. He's still in the business. I grew up around that stuff. So I used to do a lot of like business and estate planning, got interested in it. And, business law and writing agreements and contracts and negotiating deals was always something that was of interest to me. So my practice kind of progressed over the years. I've had different partnerships. Now I'm on my own and keeping a very virtual, slimlined practice, which probably 10 or 15 years ago would be difficult to do. But nowadays with the cloud and everything that's going on, kind of where I've landed.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, it's definitely the time for that. And it's always great to hear somebody who has the entrepreneurial DNA, it sounds like, and you have it in your
Yeah.
veins and you've had it in your veins. And of course, always great to know the true founder of Lyft and all the awesome ideas that you gave to them at the
Yeah.
same university, those seeds you
Sure, I'm
planted
going to
and how
send some sort of a bad letter from them like next week.
exactly. Just joking, everybody. Just
Right.
joking. So, no, I wanted to hear a little bit more on, what you end up, turning your business into and how you're serving clients. Can you take us through a little bit more of that and how you work with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, my preferable way to work with clients, of course, you tell somebody they need help, they call me, they need help with business, I'll help them. But generally, when it comes to marketing and the business I like to develop, I like the monthly ongoing relationship. So I have clients who pay a flat fee on a monthly basis, and for that they get a certain amount of my advice. They can send me emails all the time if they want to have questions answered, and they then get discounts for additional work. Like their contract work may be at a 25% discount. Their estate planning, which is usually wrapped into their business world anyway, is at a 50% discount. They get an online vault where I keep all their stuff in a secured vault. There's some emergency healthcare features to that. So this way I have a client that doesn't lose everything, because I always do, no offense to my clients, but everybody I meet, they can't find half the stuff. Like we just signed this like a week and a half ago. I know I don't know where it is. I can't find. Well, is it in your safe? I don't have a safe. Is it in the bank? I don't have a safe deposit box. Okay, so it's got to be somewhere. This happens all the time. I'm not singling anybody out. It happens all the time. So I keep them online and organized. I do a lot of, ad hoc work. You have a business partner, you need your business agreement redone, you want to form a company, you need your will done. I still do a lot of that stuff, but I prefer to market and work with clients on an advisory basis where they have me on retainer, where I make sure that they write a business plan. Biggest pet peeve I have, even for lawyers, nobody's writing business plans, right? And it doesn't have to be something out of, an Ivy League school with graphs and charts and all kinds of crazy stuff. But you got to have a roadmap to run on. We don't remember things. You can't just rely on your mind to just figure it out, because it's chaos. Every day you walk into your business, you have the same thing as I do, Gresham, right? There's
Mhm.
10 things you want to do. You only get 5 of them done because 20 other things happen during the day that you have to deal with. And you and I aren't running companies with 50 employees, 100 employees. Other people are really busy. So they get nothing done. So they have to have a strategic framework, a marketing plan. Maybe their business plan becomes multiple types of plans, because the marketing and business development is probably the most important part in the early days. And then finance behind that, got to know your numbers. So that's how I prefer to work. And that's really where the podcast came from, because I get a lot of clients that come to me, they get started 6, 8 months later. They're like, I think I got to shut down. Why? Well, we were an ice cream store and we didn't realize we'd open in the wintertime. It took longer to open and we didn't have the right amount of capital. And they don't have a business plan written. And they just didn't plan for these things that you and I both know are going to happen. So that's the way I like to run my practice. And I like to get the word out by getting people to do things intentionally, not by accident. My podcast is called The Accidental Entrepreneur, because everybody's doing, they can't give you a reason why they did something. Well, I don't know. We just had to deal with it and we figured it out. Now there's some people that were successful that way. And there's some people that are not so, there's more people that were not so successful, just kind of winging it and figuring it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's that's the way I work, and that's the way I work with clients, and the way I've kind of built up my practice. And I can work from anywhere, pretty much,
Yeah,
because it's all
especially
in the cloud.
yeah, especially because this day and age. But I feel like, knowing thyself is absolutely huge. I lose so many things as well. But a lot of the reasons I kind of able to get rid of that is I just lean on the systems and things.
Yeah,
I have contracts and things that are signed pretty much in the cloud. So I don't have to, I know where to go find them. So I don't
right.
have to search for them. But
Yeah, because
knowing
you've
thyself,
created systems that support what you're doing. I do the
exactly.
same thing, but a lot of business owners, they have some systems, but they don't
Mhm.
really have the main, how do you run this thing type of system.
Yeah, and that's why I love, the name. I think when we talked offline and we first connected, I said I can't tell you the number of times I've heard people kind of look at themselves and define themselves as the accidental entrepreneur. I just got started because it was an accident. But I think there's a place for that, as you said so well. But I think there's even a bigger place from being able to be strategic. And I love that you help, business owners out with understanding those things and understanding, hey, maybe the reason you started your business was because of, you got laid off or something happened. But
Right.
the successful businesses are those who can really drill down on that strategy and know how to put those processes and those systems and
Yeah, like
that
give yourself a
strategy in
fighting
place.
chance. I mean,
Yeah.
those businesses fail too,
Hmm.
but give yourself a fighting chance. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, that's definitely a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like at the heart of business, it's all about not guaranteeing you're going to succeed, but decreasing the likelihood of failing. And I
Right.
think planning is one of the best ways that people are able to do that.
And you know what, between you and me, if
Hmm.
and all the people listening, if you
Yes.
if you if you plan and you don't succeed, at least you can look back and learn a lot more than you did wrong. Because I get guys just like on your podcast that come on my podcast and they're successful and they got a story, but every one of them has a failure story.
Hmm.
But they
Yeah.
don't look at it as failure. They looked at it as a learning opportunity. That there are no failures, are just things that you learned that didn't work. It's like the old adage about like Edison, right? He
Yeah.
found like 9,000 ways not to make a light bulb work. And
Right.
he didn't give up. And the guys I know that are successful are relentless. They don't care about failure. They just look at it as like, wow, well, I failed this, but look what I discovered. And then they move forward. But if you don't have anything in writing, if you don't have anything to look back on, it's all in your head. You were just winging it to begin with. You're probably afraid to even do it again. You're like, well, this business thing, this doesn't work,
Yeah.
and it's difficult.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for bringing that up because a lot of times we don't realize that people kind of pivot their way, I guess you can say, to success, but you have to know what you're pivoting from in order to pivot. And if you don't have that documented, you're really kind of shooting in the dark. When if you have those that strategy, that information, that documentation of everything that you're doing, you can say, okay, maybe this didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. So the next venture I start, let
Right.
me implement those things, and then you start to see maybe I didn't succeed as much as I wanted to, but I got a little bit farther than I did before. So why is that? And you start to really kind of fail your way to success, I guess you can say.
Yeah, you learn to overcome challenges as you
Hmm.
go, and these guys have become good at it. But even the ones that are successful, they admit to me, yeah, I mean, when I got started, I didn't know what I was doing. We were working out of a shoebox, and but that's because everyone's trying to preach the gospel about, get a business plan. And they're like, oh, I was actually at what it was like, in the old days when we used to meet in person, the
Yes,
caveman
yes,
days.
way back in the day. Yes.
Right. I
50
used to
years ago.
go to I used to go to a meetup group. They were for tech startups, I think, at one of
Hmm.
the universities. And they would get, 50, 80 people would come. What they would do is there were three guys would stand up and give a pitch. I
Hmm.
use the word guys loosely. So there were women there too. But
Hmm.
they would give a pitch about their business and what they were looking for, looking to raise capital. And then they would bring somebody in to speak. They brought this guy in to speak. He was a Harvard graduate. He had successful company's worth maybe 50 million or something. I mean, it was a big company. And he had, he told you all the success and failures and things he had to deal with and his challenges, whatever. So somebody asked the question, it might have even been me, I don't remember, of, what do you think about, having a business plan? And he said, oh, you don't need that's for, for wussies. You don't need a business plan. And I don't remember if it was during the meeting or after I came up to it. And I said, I think that's a really irresponsible thing. Maybe that worked for you, but you probably have more of a business plan that you even admit to in terms of running your business. All these kids, and a lot of them were kids, they were still in college. They're going to take that to like, oh, good, I don't need a business plan. And drop the intentionalness, if that's a word, of
Hmm.
what they were doing. Hey, he didn't like that I said that. He's like, whatever, and he walked off. So that's the problem. We were all tech startups. Yeah, we're going to raise money and build this and that, and they got no business plan.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it speaks to like exactly what you said. I hear like, a lot of people say, the business plan is dead, but if the quote unquote business plan is dead, you don't want to lose the intentionality, the strategy part of it, which is really why you're writing the business plan. So you don't have either of those things in place, then of course, you might sometimes get that home run or that grand slam, but it's going to be rare and rare that actually is going to happen. And
Right. And it's just a shot in the dark. And you know what?
yeah,
I do hear that the business plan is dead. I think their definition of the business plan has changed,
it's
and that's
evolved.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. You might have a strategic plan and a marketing plan, and then you might have
Hmm.
a plan how you run those all kind of make up a business plan. Doesn't mean you got to go out and hire a guy for 20 grand to write a business plan for you, which is another stupid thing. No offense to business plan writers. I don't know how anybody could write a business plan for me if it's my business. You got to know the plan.
Yeah.
It's like buying a piece of real estate and you send in an inspector to the property. You don't even go with them.
Right.
You just get the report back and you're like, oh, it looks good to me. It's
Yeah.
just it's kind of a dangerous way to live. You can have somebody help you with the business plan. I don't write them. I help people, but you got to know it intimately as to what you want to do, why you want to do it. And you work through a lot of issues ahead of time with a business plan that you don't really think about.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. So I was going to ask you for what I call your secret sauce, which could be for yourself or your business or your podcast or a combination of both. But that is what you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique. Do you think it's that ability to, I don't know how to say it, but maybe see the forest for the trees, be able to see like these are the mistakes maybe that people make when they're starting the business and be able to kind of communicate that? Do you feel like that is maybe part of your secret sauce?
Well, I mean, it certainly gives me an advantage, right? If I've
Right.
got we're up to 115 people on the podcast. They're not all business owners. Some of them are influencers and authors or whatever. But
Hmm.
yeah, I have the advantage of having spoken to them and
Yeah.
hear all their stories. But I think, my secret sauce, look, I deal with everything just like you do, where it's hard to see the forest through the trees and you lose that and you got to go back to it. And that's
Mhm.
why I work my business plan all the time and rewriting things. And I constantly read stuff, hearing what other people are doing all the time, both for my marketing purposes. But as a lawyer, my I feel, and because I'm a small practitioner now, I feel that I spend 80% of my time marketing, business development, and connecting with people, and 20% of my time doing the work. And people say, well, how do you do that? Well, because I know that if it's 50-50, the business is going to go down and it's going to be a roller coaster ride. So I would rather, you know, spend 80% of my time business development and then slowly offload things to virtual assistants and things like that, so my business will keep developing, and then I squeeze in the work because I can always hire somebody to do the work. And I think a lot of professionals, not just attorneys, but a lot of professionals, they fall on the laurels of, oh, I'm busy, I'm finally busy, oh, I want to do my work. They don't want to deal with the stuff they don't want to deal with, like developing business and talking to people and stuff like that. And then the work stops and they're in trouble. So that's the formula that I kind of try to use, because over the years I've been on the roller coaster like all the lawyers. So I want to always be on the development train and squeeze in the work. I get so busy that I offload, and I still do. I offload some of the work to other people, but it's, that's got to always be going up, or you just too stressful a way to live, back up and down and up and down. You got to build up your base. So that's probably the formula that I use.
Nice. No, I definitely appreciate that. I mean, I think it's right along the lines of like, the e-myth and people not realizing exactly like what running a business is and the aspects of it and how important, marketing, sales, biz dev, all those things are to not just growing your business sometimes today. Sometimes it's 5 years down, depending on your cycle and how long it takes for your clients to your potential clients to become clients. It's planting those seeds, watering them, cultivating them, and then
Right.
sometimes they grow, sometimes they don't. But if you stop doing that, then you don't have anything at the end of the day, and then you're out of business.
Yeah, there's no question about it. No question about it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
That I use,
Yeah.
definitely integrated technologies when it comes to running my business. I mean, I try, and one of the things that I do is I try to control my schedule during the week, both for, for productivity and for my own peace of mind. So I use, my calendar is completely online, not for somebody to see, but all of my, appointments are made online. So if you introduce me to somebody, hey, this is John, I think you need some help, I connect with John through the email. We haven't even spoken yet. I send him a link, and that link is tied to certain days and certain blocks of time, depending on what it is. If it's an initial consultation or a pre-podcast chat or
Mhm.
podcasting, for example, you can only, with that link, schedule a podcast with me on Fridays. That's my podcasting day. So, and if you're a client and you need to have a planning consult and you're already a client, that's more open of a link than the other one. So all that stuff's in my calendar, reminds me, reminds them. I don't have to do it. It also, by the way, when somebody schedules a meeting, that's linked to my marketing system. So their email goes into my marketing system. There's a 5 or 6 week drip campaign if you're new to the list and you learn about the practice and what I do, and both on my personal branding and the law firm side. But I don't have to think about that stuff. So there are some times where I have to add people manually to my system. But for the most part, if that's the way I'm connecting, and that's the way I like to connect, that's probably the my hack. So I am in the process right now of looking for a new CRM to manage, the practice. But I wanted to also be able to manage my mailing list, which is through, don't hold me to it, but MailChimp right now, I think, because that integrates with most of the stuff. But most of them have said, oh, no, that's separate. You need to manage your mailing list separate. I go, well, yeah, but that's whatever dollars per month for the mailing list. Now I got to pay for your thing. What do I need to do that for? because nobody has seemed to have a whole package, but maybe they'll get there. Some of them have calendaring, some of them have bookkeeping, some of them have automated document production, which some of that I built myself through the website. I tried to automate a lot of stuff for clients, make it easy for them to do business with a lawyer. You know, if you're a simple situation, why do you need to go see your lawyer 5 times? Just get online, put all your data in, goes to the lawyer fixes up, sends it back to you with signing instructions, you're good. And I do that. I built a whole section on my website that does that.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that so many times the phrase I use often is that systems will set you free. And I think it allows you to spend the time how you need to spend the time, as we talked about, you know, the 80%, the biz dev and things like that.
Correct.
If you're spending time sending reminders to clients saying, hey,
Right.
you know, your meeting's coming up tomorrow, that's taking you away from doing those things that are actually going to help you to sustain and grow the business. So
Yeah.
understanding like the time that we have and how to leverage it, you know, as optimally as possible is absolutely huge.
I mean,
so I love those
Gresham, I used to spend 2-3 hours a week just scheduling meetings with people,
Yeah,
going
I
back and
believe
forth.
it.
You'd be like, what are these two? No, those dates are, how about these two? You go back and instead
yeah.
just send them a link, let them
Right.
pick. I don't care.
Exactly. Oh,
And
you're in a
I've
different
gotten rid
time
of that.
zone. We have to do
Yeah,
it again.
exactly. Right. That would
Yeah.
happen too sometimes. It
Yes.
doesn't, but those things now translate. So if you're in Australia and you book it at 2 p.m. here, he knows what time it is over there, you know? So yeah, that's definitely technology. I like technology anyway, but if you build your practice around technology, and a lot of the older lawyers don't because it's just not their thing, they didn't grow up with it, you can really leverage your time a lot. I mean, forget the fact that we've gained back all the commuting time that we used to waste going back and forth and so forth. But, you know, and we're able to get a lot more done in a shorter period of time. But if you really learn how to implement Zoom and the calendars, whether it's Acuity or Calendly, I use Calendly, or whether it's MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever CRM you're using, you know, you do that stuff because clients are getting used to working that way.
Yeah.
You know, I have lawyers. Oh no, my clients wouldn't work online. Yeah, they would. They're all online now. They don't want to leave their house.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're all coming on Zoom. It's not a problem.
Exactly.
You know, so I make it my business to run a virtual practice without meeting clients, like in rare situations.
Right. Well, awesome. Well, so I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. And you might have already touched on this, but this is kind of a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client or somebody on the podcast, or it might be something if you hopped into a time machine, you would tell your younger business self.
I told you I'm a big reader. If the books are audible, I listen to them more than I read. I probably, because I'm always reading contracts and things. It makes me crazy. But I probably have something on my Kindle, a book on my desk, and an audible book. I'm in the middle of all three. But I'll give you some of my favorite books that are for business owners and CEOs and running your business, small business owners. I love the book Referral of a Lifetime. It's a Ken Blanchard series book co-authored with a guy named Tim Templeton, I think. It's all about keeping in touch with your clients and building a keep in touch program, because I find that if you don't keep in touch with me and you tell me you do X, Y, and Z, I can't remember when the whatever it is comes up. And the guys that keep in touch with me, I stay in touch with, and I think of them when I need their services, right? I love the Go Giver series, very good book series. Bob Berg was on my podcast. That's a good one. And very much so, I'm a big fan of Mike Michalowicz. I like his books, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, The Pumpkin Plan. And I think every business owner should run their business on profit first. It's just a great, I don't get paid for that. I'm not a profit first professional or anything, but I run my practice that way. And, you know, I find that that's the trouble that business owners get into. They get in trouble with taxes. And like you said before, they get in trouble with not working on their business, the E-myth, that they can't step away from what they're doing. They're not making any money. It's just it's a lifestyle business. And I think during pandemic, a lot of people realize that. Like cash flow hides a lot of things, you know? And oops, no cash flow. And then the smoke clears. You're like, oh my God, we're making no money running this business. They got to think twice about it. So those are things that I like. Those are the valuable things I've found over the years from other people that have recommended them to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate all those nuggets. Yeah. And I think it's so important, you know, to continue to kind of sharpen the saw and stay aware of, you know, the insight that other people have. And I think, you know, podcasting, obviously books, as you said, and Kindle books is a great way to kind of learn the expertise of so many other people. So absolutely appreciate that nugget. And so now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Mitch, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Well, I think if you're a CEO and you have I told you I'm a solopreneur, but if you have an organization behind you, a lot of CEO has to do with being a good leader. You can't do everything yourself. You don't want to do everything yourself. And usually if you do it yourself, you make mistakes. So it's really important that as the effective CEOs I've found are very good leaders, and they empower the people who are below them to do the things that they need them to do to get the job done. The ones that are not effective are more like dictators. They not like dictators like of a foreign country, but
Yeah.
they dictate things. There's a difference between
Kind of micromanagement.
yeah, kind of, where they say you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and I don't like this, you do this way. They're not open to ideas about other people. And I think the effective ones, that doesn't mean you say yes to everything,
Right.
but the effective ones empower and mold and shape and grow the organization in a particular direction, but is still in touch with the different, initially, let's say, small group of people, which grow into departments, which need to still communicate with each other and to make the organization effective. And that's what I think a good CEO is. They're a leader, and they're not a dictator in terms of just telling people what to do.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think there's even a visual I saw, it might have been somewhere on social media, where the leader was the one, or the person that was the dictator was kind of on top of like this thing that, everybody was pushing and was telling them what to do. Whereas the leader was the person that was out in front of everybody and just kind of showing them how to do it, coaching people, wearing all those different hats to kind of get the team to be motivated in order to go towards the direction, where the dictator wasn't as much of a person that was kind of tied in. And a lot of times you run into the lack of energy, the lack of motivation, and the
Yeah,
lack of
they're not
desire of
happy.
even working.
Right. They're not. And look, I know companies where the CEO or whatever said, you know what, this is ridiculous. Everybody's got to get back to work. That could not have made everyone happy. There's people that don't
Right.
want to go. There's lawsuits going on because of it. How do you force your employees to go back to what could be an unsafe environment, things like
Right.
that. And I find the companies that have been working with their employees and caring for their employees are getting more productivity out of them at being
Yeah.
home, because they can shift their schedule around. They don't waste the time commuting, all that type of stuff. And I think those bigger companies are really going to benefit, moving forward, because they get it. And a lot of the older, because that was the old way of doing business, the boss. We don't really use the word boss anymore. Like,
Right.
well, he's the boss. I don't call me the boss, and the guys that want to be part of, I remember my sister worked for Bloomberg News for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Bloomberg had his desk in the middle of the floor. He didn't have a private office. You could walk up to him and say hello. He wanted to be where, and I think he ran, I think he ran his administration in New York that way too, where he
Mm-hmm.
was an accessible guy. There was no ivory tower. There was no big office where you couldn't get to him, unlike other CEOs that we know of companies.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's who people want to, get behind and to work for and to work with on an even deeper level. So yeah, I think it's a great reminder, because I think so many times we think that somebody should do X, Y, and Z because we pay them, or because we're the whatever title, the CEO, whatever title
Right.
it might be. But in reality, I think we're getting to more and more world where it's, I guess, for lack of a better term, cooperative, and we're working together, not for somebody. And what we're going to see, I think, too, with those bigger companies that invest and understand and, are empathetic and those things, that's one of the best kind of recruiting, I guess, tools that you have. So
Yeah.
people are going to want to work for those organizations because of how they acted, during times like this.
Yeah. I have a friend out in Cleveland. She's a recruiter, works for companies to recruit people, but her focus is on branding the company
Mhm.
for the purpose of attracting the right kind of employees. That's her focus. She was on my podcast a while back, and I think that's important. I think
Yeah.
that the millennials, whatever, they're looking for certain things.
Mhm.
You're not interviewing just them; they're interviewing you. As
Exactly.
crazy as that sounds, they're like, "Well, how many days do I have to go into the office?" And it used to be like, "Why would you even ask that question?" Now it's like, it's like, well, yeah, you definitely should ask that question. People want
Right.
quality of life. The days of,
Exactly.
whatever it was, working till you retire and working your bone, working your hands off or whatever it is. Those days are over. People are looking
Mhm.
for quality of life. They're like, I could have died during coronavirus, and I had friends
Mhm.
that died during the pandemic, and
Right.
life is too short. And there is a better way to do things and still be productive. I mean, I've seen more businesses start up during the pandemic than even before.
Yeah.
Some, like you said, not by choice because they got laid off, but they've been putting
Right.
it off. Other people that have been like, you know what, I've been thinking of retiring and doing something else 5 to 7 years from now, but the hell with this, I'm doing it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. And I think that a lot of that's planning too. You strategically plan your life. Where do you know, if you want to be in
Where do you wanna
5
be?
years able to spend half your year down in Key West and the other half up in up here, you can do that
Mhm.
if you build your business the right way. So it's accessible, virtual, you have the right people in place. I know a guy who's got a big engineering company, and he and his wife wanted to move to Italy and raise their boys and live there, like I think it was a 3 to 5 years or something. And they
Mhm.
spent 10 years building his business and equipping it so he could literally work from Italy and the whole firm would run itself here. And he did it. They're back now.
Nice.
The boys are older, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's doable,
Yeah. It's
but
all
it
about
takes some
intentionality.
planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
intentionality. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's why
word for
it's
today, intentionality.
exactly. Well, Mitch, I truly appreciate you for taking some time out. And what I wanted to do is just pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things that you're working on. And of course, listen to the podcast.
Yeah, definitely follow the podcast. We have episodes coming out on Tuesdays and Fridays. It's always different. There's authors, social media influencers, business owners, local people, people around the world. And if they want to connect with me, I'm on, LinkedIn, Facebook. There's a Facebook page also for the law practice and for the podcast, as well as on LinkedIn. I guess you can follow me on Instagram too. I don't do much on there, but we do post the podcast there. And my website is Beinhaker Law. Reworking it now, but you can always there are some do it yourself, I'll call it, documents and stuff. Now, this is in New Jersey. I want to preface that. I had somebody from another state once, like, I don't know, their cousin was in New Jersey, and they're like, oh, well, can't it be in New Jersey? My cousin's going to be the executor. I go, no, it doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
You have to be in New Jersey. Oh, okay. So it's got to be New Jersey for the most part. I don't do a lot of things outside of New Jersey. But if anybody's ever looking to connect, I'm an easy guy to find. Just there's no other there's other Beinhakers. I don't think there's any other Mitch Beinhakers that are out there. And if they're Beinhakers, they're somehow related to me, even if it's spelled differently. So
There you go.
yeah, they're in the tree somewhere.
There you go. That's for there's for another podcast for sure. So we will have the links and information in the show notes to make it
Okay,
even
great.
easier for you to get hold of Mitch and listen to the podcast. But definitely appreciate you and your time. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thanks for having me, Gresham.